Hello, everyone. I'm Gerald, TarotStache. Thanks for being here. I'm joined by the amazing Jennifer from My Holistic Self
Hello, hello.
and Holistic Self Counselling.
Mm-hmm.
All of the links are below because you all know that. Well, I hope you do. Today, we are doing a laugh and learn. We're talking about human design. We're continuing that, and we're talking more in depth about profiles.
Mm-hmm.
Last time we were together, we did an introduction to profiles. That was part one.
Right.
So this is part two, where we're going to be talking about the specific profiles. So I'm looking forward to this. All of our links are below, including the link that you can go to so that you can get your own human design chart or
Yes.
body graph. So there's that. As always, this is for entertainment purposes only. Do not make any decisions based on what we say. Seek professional assistance. Really. We also have the idea of the human design. We've been talking about this for a while, and it's a wonderful thing to have a way to understand how you naturally are in the world, which is why we're talking about it. I think that's why I want to do that. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, and I've said this probably on each one that we've done, but I love that it is something that gives us permission to be who we already knew we were.
Yes.
Right? That part of us that goes, no, this is actually how I operate and what I like. When the rest of the world goes, no, 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 be conditioned like this, act like this, show up like this. And we go, but that doesn't resonate for me. And then we read human design and we go, oh, that makes so much sense. Of course, that's why I felt the way I felt, or why I wanted to do it this way.
Yes. When we have an understanding of our natural affinities and our natural tendencies of how we engage the world,
Mm-hmm.
we can accept that part of us. We can use it to help inform our decisions moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I find this extremely important, especially as this is very complex to a point, yet if you go to your website, you get a good body graph that explains it in a summary. You don't have to deep dive at
Right.
all.
Right.
Um, there are some of the best chatters that are here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We
Yeah,
have,
I listen to some of the comments as they go by.
yes, I'm enjoying the comments as well. Nalani, Jamie, Jonathan, Edward, Kaylee, we have Jonathan said, yes, Jennifer, the more I learn about human design, the better I understand myself.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, ooh, here, look, it helps if I do this, if I put that so that people know what we're doing.
There you go. That's awesome.
Sip, sip. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. I'm excited to talk about profiles. I know we shared last time about what they are and kind of how they show up for us.
Mm-hmm.
But to kind of just to recap that, our profile is how we live our purpose. It's how we
Yes.
live and interact in the world. It's the way, yeah, the costume you wear or role you play as you live out the purpose of your incarnation cross. Yeah, and that's a beautiful.
Gerald has been doing some overachiever stuff.
Yeah, and so you're talking about the lines from the personality and design sun and earth gates. So if you're looking at your body graph, you'll see that there's the one row and then the other row, and it starts with the sun and then the earth, and then it goes from there. And so
Yes.
it's those top four. So the two on each side, your sun and your earth. That's what makes up your incarnation cross.
Yes.
And it's the point. So it's the lines for the hexagram for the I Ching, but the points next to the gates that are there. So you'll have a point 1 through 6, and on either side there, that's what makes up your profile. That's where we get that number from.
Yes. I think that's great. There are 12 profiles. I think we should just start, don't you? Should
Sure.
we just start?
Let's just dive in.
Because there's 2 pieces of the profile. Is that correct?
Right. So the first one, so in this case, the profile 1-3, the 1 comes from our personality side. So the first number in our profile has to do with the number on the personality side. So in this case, the orange side. If you're looking at a traditional human design graph, it's the black side of the chart. And then the 3 is your design side. And so that's going to be, the pink side or the red side. It depends, again, what chart it is. But when you're looking at them, that's the way that numbers show up. So whatever those top 2 numbers are, that's your profile.
You mentioned this is based on the I Ching. The fact, just a quick note that I took, tell me to stop. Lines 1 through 4 are personal. No, excuse me, 1 through 3 are personal. They're self-focused and internal processing.
Yes.
Lines 4 through 6 are transpersonal. They're focused, they're other focused, and how we relate to each other, that idea of relational growth.
Absolutely. So the way that the way I like to kind of look at it is the bottom 3, right? That right facing. This has to do with your cross too. Like they're so interconnected. So they make a right facing angle. So you might see in your design like RAX or LAX. That just means that it's a right angle cross or a left angle cross. And then there's the 4-1, which is the juxtaposition, but we can talk about all of that in crosses. But the way it works is if it's right facing and it's a personal destiny, the idea is that I can better the world by bettering myself. So my focus is to work on myself and to build that. If I have a left facing angle cross, then it's transpersonal. And so the way we look at that is I actually better myself by bettering the world.
Yes.
Right. And so it's just about how we show up and where our focus needs to be. And then that helps us to be able to know, how am I going to be able to work on myself? If I'm a left angle cross, I work on myself by putting myself out there and doing things in the world to help the world. And that helps me to grow. Right. Versus right angle cross, which I am, I have to do that inner work on myself. And then that allows me to go into the world and share that with the world.
Stay tuned. We'll talk about incarnation crosses later. We're going through the human design profiles first.
Absolutely. Because there's a lot more crosses.
There's a lot more. I asked for a show of hands of how many people have gotten the free body graph from Jennifer's website, and Jonathan and Kaylee have said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so has Jamie. This is wonderful. All right. I want to be as efficient as possible with what we're doing today because we've got 12 of these. We'll probably do a part 2, maybe a part 3 if we need to.
Yeah.
But how about we start with profile 1-3?
Okay, so profile 1-3 is the investigator martyr, also known as the penetrator adventurer. Lots of different roles depending on kind of whose version you want to look at. Yes. But traditionally, it's the investigator martyr. So the line 1 specifically is all about investigation. Line 1 is the foundation, right? It's at the bottom of the hexagram. And so it's about building a solid foundation of knowledge and understanding. right? So that line 1 can be very creative and very practical, but it needs that groundedness
Yes.
first in order to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when we're looking at a 1 in the first line there, I'm a 1-3, so I can I can speak to this one quite well. And I've said this before on the show. I have to deep dive into something
Yes.
before I feel comfortable sharing it with somebody else. I have to feel like I have a foundation in it, and then I can bring it forward. I don't have a foundation. I don't feel confident in bringing it forward. Okay. I do have to say, though, that my line 3 can just mess with my line 1 so bad.
What? Really? They would interact that way?
Oh, yes. And this happens often in the profiles because the line 3 is all about trial and error. It's about experimentation and discovery. The line 3 can't be told anything because the line 3 has to go figure it out for itself.
Yes.
So now think about this. I have to deep dive and gain all of this knowledge, but my line 3 is going, not until you try it. You don't know. What do you think?
It's the, F around and find out. It's the here, hold my beer.
Yeah.
And so, and Kaylee says, 1-3 walking contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm an investigating martyr.
That's the 1-3.
That's the 1-3.
Mhm.
Kaylee is 1 as well.
Okay.
So the deep research, and this has been my experience with you, Jennifer, is when you want to know something, you are going to research it. You are going to know it. You are extremely intelligent, which has nothing to do with your human design. That's just the way you are. I mean, I'm just saying. But you also like to have an opportunity to learn through process.
Absolutely.
So, um,
Absolutely. So the way that this shows up for me is I have to learn about it so that I feel confident enough to experiment with it. And then
good.
once I have enough of the foundation that I can say, okay, now it's time for play. That's where my line 3 really comes in. It wants,
Oh, that's
right?
exciting. Then you really get to understand it for yourself and how it
Absolutely.
looks. So you go from book smarts to street smarts
You got it.
with it.
You got it. So we talk about that line 3, right? And one of the examples that, I heard a while back that I really appreciated was, you might be at a bonfire with everybody and somebody says, hey, stay back. The fire's really hot. And the one's going to go, okay, I need to understand fires and really explore that. Right. But my 3 line is going to go, well, let's see about that. Whew. Okay. Yeah. Damn, that's hot. And then that line 3 is going to turn around to everybody else and go, so just so everybody knows, I tried it, I tested it, I checked it out for myself, and yeah, it's actually really hot.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Nalani said that leads me to analysis paralysis.
It can. This is
Yes.
why the 3 is such an important component for the 1 in that aspect, and why I love the dissonance that sometimes shows up in my 1-3, because that 1 could just dive and dive and dive and dive and then never do anything with it. But my 3 would never stand for that,
Of course.
right? That line 3 is like, but we have to play. We've got to
Yes.
play with this to see how does it feel when I try it on. 3 is all about trial and error. It's experimentation. It's discovery. It's wisdom through experience, right? It's a much more dynamic way of being in the world than the 1 is, because it wants to try it all on, right? It wants to see what it feels like to move with whatever it is that you're doing.
Hmm. I like that. Jacob has joined us. and
Hello.
Sylvia has joined us.
Hello.
If someone, I wrote down, I have tips for others on how to engage or how to support someone with a 1-3 profile. Do you want
Mhm.
me to read what I have and you add to it?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. This is Gerald being tested. I know that that's not what's happening, but we'll see. For others, when you're working with a 1-3 or investigator martyr, that curious experimenter, you have to give them space to explore and fail. It's important, don't rush their process. They understand their process. Some of them may experiment first and then research. There may be research and then experimentation, and it's oftentimes a give and take.
Mhm.
Is that fair?
That's really fair.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, the line 1 is gonna respond really well to having all of the information, right?
Mhm.
And the line 1 really wants things to be direct. So, we wanna be really clear about what your expectation is with a line 1. The 3 doesn't want any pressure. If you give pressure to the line 3, it's going to just implode. Like, it just can't handle it. So you put those 2 together, and it's like, I need to have all of the information, and then I need to be allowed to sit with it
Yes.
and see how it feels, how it's gonna show up for me, what I wanna do with it, and then I can get back to you and say yay or nay as to
Mhm.
whether or not it aligns for me.
That's perfect. I also would think it's important then to give an opportunity for that environment to make it okay to explore and to do things in your own time.
Absolutely.
So, as a
Absolutely.
parent or an adult or a sibling or a spouse, if I understand that you need time to think and to play, I can just sit back and go, okay, because when a 1-3 is ready to share, they will share, and probably depending upon them, good luck trying to get them to shut up.
Well, and I've said this before, right? Like, I could just go on and on and on. Like, you have to kind of be like, okay, Jen, we're steering back this way now. I'm like, oh, okay.
I love it.
Right? Because the 1 is very excited too to share what it's learned and what it understands. And the 3 is like, yeah, been there, I did that. Let's just do this thing now. And what's going on here? And so it's a little
Yes. With all of that, how someone is nurtured or brought up also indicates how they may interact with these things.
Absolutely. Because remember, too, every line, if we're bringing it into the gene keys, which we haven't really talked about, but every line also has its own wounding, right? It has its own shadow, it has its own wound that also is associated with it.
Mm.
And so you look at the line 1, and its shadow is repression, right? And we're in that wound of insecurity, right? And it heals through honesty. And so we look at that and go, okay, well, how does that have anything to do with that strong foundation? But think about it, right? If we don't know for sure, if things aren't clear, if we're not being clearly communicated with about how somebody feels or about what's going on somewhere, there is a deep insecurity. And because the line 1 represses things, it doesn't often express that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now you combine that with the 3, and the 3 shadow is not like lack of commitment. There's some pessimism that happens there, and the line 3 can sometimes not be reliable. Line 3s often, they're known for making and breaking bonds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that can be on a very extreme level, or it can be on a very, very simple level. And so you think about, okay, if I'm not, as a line 1-3, if I'm not getting that communication, if you're not being really clear with me about where you're at or what's going on or how we're doing, that one
Yes.
three shadow, I'm repressing it and then I'm out of here. Right? Like, that's it. That's just
Yeah.
how it is. So I need to have that give and take. I need to have that clear communication, because
Mm-hmm.
without that, I can't sit in that energy.
Yes.
Right? And now this is where the entire body graph comes into play, because you add that now to my undefined solar plexus that is very uncomfortable with confrontation. and
Mm-hmm.
does not like to sit in the discomfort. And that 3 line is like, see ya.
And that is something that we will be doing in the future, is how do we look at all of these pieces and parts, trying to
Mm-hmm.
keep it as clear as possible for us. Kaylee said, I think that makes 1-3s great teachers.
Yeah,
I think it can
absolutely.
be. I see you, Trixie Kawasaki. If you and Jacob have not done a body graph,
Yeah.
I would encourage you to do it. It could be very insightful.
Mm-hmm.
So Kayla said, I didn't realize that makes so much sense. That couples coupled with attachment style. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next one, which is 1-4.
Mm-hmm. So everything we said about the 1 still applies, right? That doesn't change. But now we're going to add that 4 line. So the 1-4, the 1 is still the investigator. The 4 line is the opportunist or the companion.
Yes.
Okay. And so, that I also want to mention, I'm going to just step back. This is for all
Yes.
of them. But the first line, that personality line, that's where we have our like behavioral identity. That's where that like the 1 investigator
Mm-hmm.
comes from. That's our
Yes.
personality identity, our behavioral identity. That's what we do, right? The design side is more about our nature, right?
Okay.
And so it's how we tend to just be in that space, right? So my behavior is very 1, it's very investigator. My nature is very much the martyr, the 3. So
Mm-hmm.
just to notice kind of some of the things that are different there. So for a 1-4, it's the same, right? That behaviorally, they're very much that investigator, but their nature now is the opportunist because it's connected to the 4.
Yes.
Okay. So we look at that and go, okay, well, what is the 4 about? It's opportunistic. That's why it's called the opportunist. It's about socially influence, right? Like people that have the 4 line, it's all about their networks, and everything has to do with their networks. And it has to do with their community, right? So though we all need community, line 4s have to have community in order to operate properly.
Mm,
Okay. So
interesting.
they thrive through their community. They get their love through their community. Everything for the line 4. I mean, we talk about, as you said earlier, that transpersonal piece. They thrive through heartfelt service. They thrive through the ability to give of themselves to their networks,
Yes.
right? And a line 4 person needs to have um, that kind of integral connection with the other and with the whole. So you think about, when we're in community, when we're in networks, there has to be a give and take in that energy. And it has
Yes.
to be an honest give and take, right? And this is across the board. We need to have that. But for the line 4, if they don't feel like it's an honest give and take, if they feel like they're being pressured, if they feel like they're being manipulated, if they feel like they're being taken advantage of, that line 4 is going to go, I'm done. This isn't working for me. I don't want to be a part of this. And the line 4, because everything is about connection and community, that wound is rejection,
Ah, okay.
right? So if that shows up for them, then they're going to be in that space and they're going to go, I don't want to be here. I don't want to feel this if they're feeling that rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Because their radiance comes through friendship, right? Through that connection. And they have to have that gentleness and that compassion and that I say compassion, but also a passion, right? Like for that connectivity in
Yes.
order for it to thrive for them.
Yes. It's so interesting. So interesting. So investigator, opportunist. I also have, a nutshell summary is the relational expert. person gets how people work together and how they
Mhm.
work with people.
Yeah.
I also think for a tip for others to work with this person, you have to respect their need for security and nurture that mutual honest trust. As you said, that give and take and that honesty is actually how you develop trust.
Yeah.
So is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you think about each one of these two, right? And that line one aspect of it, like how we feel secure, our strategy for being secure is to
Mhm.
take care of ourselves,
Yes.
right? And to notice what's going on with everyone else. That's that one line because it's going to deep dive into it. It wants to understand all the bits and pieces and the nuances and everything about what's going on before it feels comfortable stepping into,
Yes.
right? But then we look at that four side, and the four side is about, you know, when it talks about the humanity aspect of it, it's talking about this idea of the benefactor or the dependent, right? And the line four is constantly looking at it and going, am I giving something to this situation? Am I receiving something from this situation? But it's a constant evaluation of, is this right for me? Is this network, is this community correct for me? Am I getting what I need from it? Am I able to give of myself to it? Right? Really, do I feel like I fit in this space?
I'm making a note. I think that's a very helpful thing. I wrote down constant evaluation of the relationships. That's always going on in a 1/4's mind, or that's always being processed,
Always.
always being processed.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Right? And we look at the waves that come between them, right? The line three, because the wounding is rejection, it's this idea of allegiance versus rejection, right? But it shifts with the line four, it's about kindness and meanness.
Oh, interesting.
Do
Okay.
I feel like this is like a kind place for me? Do I feel like I can be kind here? Is this pulling a meanness from me? Do I feel like there's a meanness in the energy, right? It's another way of kind of noticing the wave energy around
Mhm.
the four.
Really important to notice the energies. It gives us the ability to adjust ourselves, how we interact with people, to offer that level of support that they need so they can be their most authentic self.
Absolutely.
Shall we move on? Am I going too quickly?
Not at all. And honestly, I think we might be able to get through them only because once we hit six, we're repeating.
That's true. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. There was a question from Jacob. Trixie wants to know how many numbers you can have. Well, there are 12 profiles.
Jonathan just posted them.
Jonathan just posted them. Thank you, Jonathan. So there are 12 of them. So here we have 2, 4.
Hmm. So again, the four is going to be very similar in terms of how it operates. The line two is all about flow. The line two is all about your natural talents, your gifts, being in the flow. It can be called the dancer, as opposed to the hermit, which is the normal title. So the 2-4 would be the hermit opportunist, or the loner companion, which again, talk about how some of these roles can be, very interesting when they're put together. You think loner companion, how does that even work? Right. But the line two is the hermit because the line two is meant to be in its own space, in its own energy, doing what lights it up, what brings it joy, and what just, makes it flow. And then the line two gets pulled out of that space of being in a hermit by people who want what the line two is doing. They want to be a part of the line two's energy because of the flow that it's in and what the line two can offer. So that's where the 4 comes in for the line 2, because it's all about that network. So the 2-4 person has to have the right community and the right network that are going to pull that line 2 out at the right times, right?
Mm.
To help the 2 to be able to give of itself, of its flow, of its understanding of wherever it's at any given moment. So the 2 has to wait for that worthy calling, right? To come back into the world and to share what it's been doing. So it's not that they necessarily don't go together, but it's about that right community. And this is it for any 4, right? The right community that's going to be able to hold the space for the person. And in this case, if it's a 2, to be able to recognize when they need their own time and to give it to
Yes.
them. And then also recognize that sometimes the line 2 needs to be pulled out because they won't necessarily come out on their own, right?
Hmm. This is that idea of people who need that invitation. You say, "Hey, why don't you join us?
Mhm.
I'm interested in your thoughts on this." So I love that. So
Yeah.
this is the hermit opportunist, the natural networker. This is somebody who gets networking. It just oozes from them because of the 2 and the 4. They match beautifully for
They
that.
can. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes, though, the 2 can feel pressured by the network, which is why the right network is so important. Because if the network is always pulling on the 2, it's not able to do its hermit thing,
Yes.
right? And
Go ahead.
it's an important piece for the 2 personality because they have to be able to be in that hermit space in order to find that flow.
Yes. They need that alone time to do the things that they need to do, that only they can do for them, whatever that looks like for that individual. It's
Mhm.
really, really critical. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. And this is where, that life's work piece, which is again going into Gene Keys a bit more, but why they're called the dancer,
Okay.
right? Because it's about being in that flow, right? Just moving naturally with whatever is being inspired in them to move.
Hmm. Yes. That's great. Anything else on the 2-4?
Well, I'm wondering if you have your little kind of
Well, I
summary
have
that you did.
the hermit opportunist, natural networker, needs alone time to recharge, but is often called out by others for their natural gifts.
Mhm.
And do not push them out of solitude. Invite, don't demand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the piece with the 2 is agendas are not great for 2s. So pulling them out without that agenda piece, right? Allowing it to just be flow is going to
Yes.
be very powerful. So it doesn't mean that you can't say, "Hey, do you want to go, do this particular thing?" But it is about allowing it to be in that flow. And the shadow aspect for the 2 is blame. And
Mm.
so the 2 is going to take on responsibilities that it doesn't need to. Or it could even go into that very irresponsible kind of energy, because the two's wound is denial, right? And so it can shut down and shut off. And again, you think about that hermit piece. With all of these, we have the elevated aspect and we have the fear aspect and how they show up for us. And so that line 2, if it gets caught in denial and blame, it's going to go, I can't be a part of my network. I can't deal with that, or at least this aspect of my network, right? And then it's shutting off a part of itself. And that's not going to be healthy for the 2. And so the 2 needs to heal through ease. It needs to have that support and that ability to be in the flow in order to navigate those wounds and that shadow aspect.
Hmm. Yes. Oh, that's cool. Let's move on to the 2-5.
Okay, so again, 2 is going to stay the same. So we've got hermit, and then the 5 is the heretic. So also the loner, the seducer or seductress, however that wants to apply for you. And the energy here is that the 5 energy is a projected energy. The 5 can be, it's a natural fixer. Like if we look at a line 5 day, it's a really great day for very practical solutions because that's the line 5, right? The line 5 is a leadership line. It's a power line. Line 5s can be very seductive. They can have very attractive energy. But the thing with the line 5, and anybody who has a line 5, this is so important for you to understand, is that the line 5s are projected on. They attract projections from others, and this can be positive or negative. So with a line 5, what ends up happening is somebody will see them either as the hero or as the villain, and very little in between. And so the line 5 might be riding high one day, and everybody's going, oh, yay, look at you, line 5. And the next day, they're on somebody's, crap list going, what just happened? But the line 5, if it's not very, very clear about what can be expected of it and what can't, the line 5 is going to be projected on, and people don't tend to see people with a line 5 clearly. They see them as they perceive them, not as they actually are. And the line 5 itself has to be really mindful of not doing that to others because that line 5 energy is very projected energy.
That's insightful. That's really insightful. This I have as a summary is the reclusive problem solver.
That's fantastic because the 2 is the hermit, right? And the line 5 is the problem solver or the natural fixer. I mean, you go to a line 5 to get something done, and they're going to tell you some good ways to fix it. That's their life's work. Like the 5 wands, that's their life's work. For this side, I'm skipping into Gene Keys a little bit, but it's important, is its impact. It's about their radiance. Their radiance shines through by the impact that they have.
Yes. I am impacted by that thought of this is a person who is projected on by others. So,
Yeah.
and it's usually the extremes. You said there's and I have written down here, projected on by others as a fixer or savior.
Yeah. So on the positive side of it, right? I say positive and negative, but it's really about how it's perceived.
Yes.
Right. But on that positive side of it, it is about, you can fix this for me. You can make this better. You can take care of this for me. Right. But then when the line 5, if it doesn't set the right boundary, if it's not clear about what it can or can't do, and then it gets that projection put on it, people just assume, yeah, okay, well, the 5 can do it. And the 5 might be like, I can't do this. This isn't for me to do. This isn't my duty to do. This isn't.
Exactly.
Right? So the line 5 has to be very, very clear about what can and can't be expected of it so that people don't immediately then go to, you're the villain, you're the bad guy, you never do anything. You don't show up the way I want you to, right?
Yeah, that idea of a savior requires someone to have really strong boundaries and to be able to maintain them. I have the tip for others with working with a 2-5 is be mindful of your expectations. Let them choose how to engage. That goes back to that projection. I have to go, this is more me than it is you.
Yeah. And that goes for the 2 and the 5. I mean, what you're talking about there, about being really mindful about what you expect, right? Because the 2 is not always meant to be pulled out. The 2 needs to be allowed to be in its hermit place.
Yes.
So now the 2 who is in hermit mode is not going to be able to show up in its 5 leadership when it's not meant to be out. And now look at what we might be putting on that person, right? So the shadow aspect of the line 5 has to do with tyranny and deafness. So the line 5 can either, this is just how it is, and they're going to take over and they're going to tell us how it needs to get done because they're the natural fixture and they have that leadership ability, and we're just going to go, oh, or we're going to get mad, right? Like it's going to be one or the other. There's very little in between.
Yes.
Right? Or there is that deafness side. Line 5 just knows what it's going to do, and it's going to go do it because it knows what it needs to do to get done, and it's not going to hear you, and it's not going to give you space. And so it's very important for those who are around the line 5 to go, okay, hold on. This 5 is just in its deafness right now. It's not hearing me. I need to take a step back. I need to figure out what I need to communicate, what's important to me, and what I can just let go of because it's not hearing me right now.
Correct.
Right?
I like that. That's well said.
Yeah. And the wound that the line 5 has is guilt. Of course it is. I mean, think about this projected energy. What else is it going to go into? It's going to be guilty. I didn't do this and I didn't show up that way. And why couldn't I do this for that person? And I was doing too much of this other thing, and but whatever it is that's going on. And so it needs to work on forgiveness and healing through forgiveness. The Ho'oponopono is a great mantra for the line 5 to hold on to.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because you think about it, if the line 5 is always being projected on, especially things that it can't really show up with or for, and then immediately it feels guilty.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do that again, or I didn't, show up in this way, or oh, I let that person down again. Right? And then ultimately it comes back to, and here I let myself down again. I didn't set
Yes.
my boundary. I didn't show up for myself. I didn't say what I needed. I didn't express what I could or couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh, wow. So I'm looking at the next one.
Mm-hmm.
I find this is interesting. The next one is the 3-5.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay, so now take all that 5 energy that we just talked about, right? And now put that with the trial and error energy, the experimentation energy,
ooh, okay.
right? I mean, when we look at that, we go, okay, so now not only is this a person who is highly projected upon, right? Who we don't know sometimes, what we're perceiving because it's what we think. And now this is somebody who's going to experiment. They're going to play. They're going to make bonds and they're going to break them. They're
Yes.
going to be going back and forth with this, as we said, that allegiance and rejection energy. So what's happening here is that this energy that is trying so hard to be seen and to fit in and to hold this particular space also now has to experiment. Well, how hard is it to set clear boundaries when you're experimenting?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it depends upon the nature of the experiment.
Exactly.
It could be messy, or it could be a lot of fun.
It could be a lot of fun, but you
It could
have to be
also be
clear
very
about
dangerous.
what you're doing, right? If
Yes.
you're just experimenting, especially in relationships, right? A line 5 is like, yeah, we're just dating, we're just having fun, right? 3-5s just having fun. Maybe a 1-3 is like, I could have some fun. Okay. 2-4 is going to go, wait a minute. You mean
Yeah.
you're not my person? You mean you're not safe? You're not like, right? But
Mhm.
if they're very clear from the beginning about the expectation and what can be expected of them and how they're going to show up in the role, that's very different,
Yes.
right? But if they're not clear, they will end up being the bad guy.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Many of us do not want to be the bad guy. So, Kaylee said, would the same hold true for a very open person graph wise? I think this was before we were getting into the 3-5. Some of that energy with the
When I was talking about the open solar plexus, I
I
don't.
think it's that, but it relates to
Oh, the projection piece, maybe, just the 5 energy and the projection. It's very possible. I mean, when we look at a really open chart, we look at somebody who doesn't have a fixed way of being with the energy in those centers. So what ends up happening is,
being projected upon you. Correct.
yeah,
Of course,
it
she's
is they can tend to mesh into wherever they are or whoever they're with. And then once they leave that energy, they go, actually, you know what? I don't really like who I'm becoming in that energy. But now there's already been an established dynamic. And they have
oh,
to go back and shift that. And so the other person might very well be projecting something onto that person with an open chart because they're perceiving them as a mirror, because those reflections coming back are going, oh yeah, okay, you're like me like this, or you're, this way about this. And the very open person might be like, well, actually, I'm not like this at all. And I don't think I really like this energy or how I'm becoming in this energy.
mm-hmm. Yes. Nancy Ray, hello, is
Hello,
a
hello.
profile 3-5. I need to write a book on what not to do. I've always learned from my mistakes. I have stuck my finger in the light socket too many times.
That's that beautiful 3 energy.
Yep. And Edward is also a 3-5, and Jonathan's son is a 3-5.
Okay.
Kaylee
Yeah.
said, thank you.
Of course. Yeah, that 3 energy experiments in every way possible. But the beautiful thing about the 3 energy, and part of why I love it for myself. You can decide if you love it for yourself or not, but I love it for myself because it doesn't look at failure as failure, right? It really is like, okay, cool. I learned something. And it's able to make a whole bunch of mistakes and just go, okay, what's next?
And not everyone has that
No.
approach. And the fact that this 3 energy has that, kudos.
Yeah. Well, 3 energy has capacity for that.
Oh, well said. Well said.
Right. And I do think that that is important because not everybody's going to hold space for that. But, the example, and I may have done it on a previous show of like, if, they're walking down the street, well, the one's walking down the street, it sees a pothole. I think I did this last time. And it says, oh, pothole. I better go research what potholes are and figure all of that out. The 2 never left his house, so they don't know what's going on. And the 3 falls into the pothole. And then they're going, hey guys, look at all this cool stuff. Look what I found. I found all this stuff in the pothole. And let me let me tell you all about it. Right. And
Yes.
so like there is something about that 3 energy because it's playful energy, it's fun energy. It doesn't like being stuck, it doesn't like being tied down, it doesn't like being forced to try something, right? It wants to try it on its own.
They will do it when they're good and ready. Do it. I like this because this is the summary of this is the bold innovator
Mhm.
learns by messing up and trying again.
Mhm.
Has a magnetic ability to solve problems. I like this word choice in here, that magnetic,
Mhm.
which tells me this person is going to have a lot of opportunities to mess up and try again,
Absolutely.
which is, I want somebody around that, especially for problem solving, because they are able to apply. Oh, well, when this happened before, I did something similar to this. It informs them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You want a tip
And it's
for, go ahead.
Well, it's just great. Like there's so many people here now with like 3 5s. And so when we talk about how to be with a 3 5, let it, like that whole let them that's been out there, like a 3 5, it's so great for that. Like let them experiment, let them have fun, let them make mistakes,
Hmm.
but help them to learn how to communicate it, right? To communicate what they're doing. Right. It's very much similar to a manifester in the sense that manifestors, their strategy is to inform, right? And then people won't get in their way or as much. And they're able to have that freedom that they need. It's the same thing with that line 5. That line 5 just has to be really well established in how they're informing people of what they're doing, of what's going on, of what to expect of them. And if they can do that, then they can have all the freedom that they need to experiment and learn so that they can come back and go, hey, I figured it out.
Yes. This also goes very nicely with what you said, as to be with them, celebrate their resilience, the fact they are able to get up and try it again, and do not blame them for making the mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we push a little much. If someone makes 30 mistakes, some of us would go, well, that's a lot of mistakes. What are you doing wrong in order to have those mistakes? I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking the 3-5, that's fun.
It can be
It
if
can
they're
be
if
when they're in the right frame of mind. And
absolutely, yeah. It can be a lot of fun. And it the learning of in it is a beautiful process. Right? So we talk about again that leadership role. I mean, again, you said fives, that magnetic. Fives are charismatic. They are magnetic. They're alluring. Like people are drawn to 5 energy.
yes.
And so this is why it's so important for the 5, especially looking at it, from this perspective of the 3, where they're going to play around and they're going to experiment and they're going to have fun, because that 3 energy is that bonds made and broken. It is very much about like commitment and sustainment, and can they sustain something. But on the design side, it is that seducer, seducted, like, or seduced, like, yeah, like they're always in this kind of energy of what is going to like bring that passion in for me, what is going to be able to allow me to fix something, what is going to allow me to hold this space, what is going to let me shine.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's that seduction kind of
Sure.
piece,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is like they're pulled to that, and we're pulled to them for that.
Yes. Nancy Ray said, I am a 3-5 emotional manifester, a double whammy. A double whammy or a superpower?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But that emotional component of it, not only are you experimenting and being projected on and potentially projecting to others, but you also have to wait your emotional wave before you even know what's right for you. So when it comes to that informing as a manifester and that line 5, your best line ever is, let me get back to you.
Ooh, write that down, Nancy Ray. Let me get back to you. Edward is a manifesting generator.
Hmm.
Okay, let's finish the 3-6 up for this round.
Okay.
That way, we will be able to start there and do the other half. So
Sounds
3-6.
Yeah. So again, that 3 line is the martyr line or the adventurer, and the 6 is the role model. Also the dreamer or realist, like the dreamer slash realist. So what ends up happening is the 3 line again is about experimentation and all of that, whereas the 6 line is all about being the role model. So the line 6 is unique. It's very different from all of the other lines in that the line 6 has 3 distinct stages.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So from 0 to 30, the line 6 often will show up as a line 3. It's going to
Mhm.
act that way. It's going to have the behavior of a line 3. The problem is that the 6 is not made for that experimentation. So because you've got the 3 line there, a part of you would be made for that experimentation. But the line 6 is that part of it's going to go, this doesn't feel right. Like all of this, experimenting. Because from 3 to 50, is when it's considered the contemplative time. In human design, they call it up on the roof, the time that you're up on the roof.
Yes.
Because it's during this time that the line 6 is kind of taking a step back. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to experiment as much. Now, 3/6s are going to keep on experimenting because that line 3 is there. But there's this other part that's going to take a step back, and it's going to start observing. It wants to see how other people are experimenting, how other people are showing up, what's going on for others. How are they handling all of these things that I've had all of this experience with, but maybe it didn't go the way I wanted it to. And that combination of the experimentation and the observation from that 50 years on is what is considered that integrated role model, that ability to go, you know what, I can see ahead how things are going to be or what's going to show up because I have all of this experience and understanding and observation behind me. And so line 6s are great educators. They're visionaries. They're able to hold space for things and they can have more ability to see the bigger picture.
Yes.
Okay. But because it's a 3/6, they still are going to have that experimental aspect to them.
And that was the three phases of the for the line 6s, 0 through 30, and then 30 to 50.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond 50, it's where they, as you said, they're that role model.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. This, I have here on my notes, the 3/6 is a summary is the wise phoenix.
I like it. I like the Phoenix idea too.
I would say this would probably be an aspect of like a crone,
Yes.
a wise woman who, or a wise one who knows, and whether or not they are going to tell you that, good luck. Um,
That is something to be said because one of the things with the 6 energy is that the 6 really does get to decide who it shares its wisdom with. And the
yes.
6 needs to be discerning about who it shares its wisdom with.
Hmm.
Right.
Yes.
So for those who are into astrology, it might be fun too to just note that like the 30 and the 50, we're looking at our Saturn return at 30 and our
Mm,
Chiron return at 50. And you think about the energies that are associated with those two, right? And we recognize that Saturn has a lot to do with the way that we can sabotage ourselves and then how we can hold space for like parts of us that are a little bit more difficult to manage, right? And then that Chiron return is that wounded energy, right? The wounded healer energy that can come back. And so these are things that we've held space for others, but not necessarily for ourselves. And so each one of these are very specific like times for these transitions to happen, right? So at that 30 where we go, okay, I'm so tired of that limitation, of that restraint, of, all
yes.
of that. And we're moving with that discipline energy, right? With Saturn. Again, it's that like we can see kind of the connectedness of how these show up. Right? And then same with Chiron, that wounded healer piece of I can actually look at my experience and what I've been through and how I've held space for these things. I've been able to learn how to bring that home for myself. And now I'm able to transmute that. And it's not, again, right? 6 is that transpersonal. So it did it by observing. It did it by being out, it looking, by all of those outward things. And that helped that 6 to gain all of that wisdom and understanding.
I appreciate that a lot. Yes. Especially with those three distinct phases. And no, one day you wake up and you're suddenly 30, you do not phase into that next phase. It doesn't happen like that.
That would be nice. It was just like, boom, okay, done with that phase.
Yes. Oh, okay. You wake up and suddenly. The tip I have for others is to be patient. They bloom in time and become powerful guides.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And, you know, when you think about the six again, right, that the six responds to that patience piece. So, right, that ability to bloom in their own time. And the shadow with the six, like the shadow, they can become aloof, like especially that up on the roof time. There is an opportunity there for the six to kind of go in more. And so the six just has to be mindful of that and how that's showing up for them. And then also, as they gain this knowledge, they want to be really mindful of the arrogance that can come from that, right? Because it's not about, you know, dictating. The six is a teacher, it's teacher energy.
Yes.
And so it's about holding that space. And so you look at that and go, okay, well, the wound for the six is isolation. The six has to be very mindful of that. So if you have somebody who is a six, and in this case, you know, they're a 3-6, so their wound is shame and isolation.
Hmm.
Right? Okay, so what are we going to do? How can we help them? Well, that line 6 needs a lot of care, and that line 3 needs to have some fun. It needs to have some humor brought in. And so, how can we care and also lighten the energy?
I'm going to take a little bit of a leap. I would imagine these people, because they can be powerful guides or teachers, they're probably pretty experimental on how they teach, because if they get bored, they'd want to do something different to
Mhm.
see how it works.
Yeah, and shift it up, right? Because that
Shift
3 is
it up.
always going to be there. That 3 does not like to do just one thing all the time.
Especially in the framework as being a teacher or a mentor, the
Mhm.
elder, the helpful elder. I would imagine these 3 6s appreciate at the older phase, the over 50, appreciate someone recognizing the wisdom that they have and then coming to them respectfully.
Mhm.
They're not going to tell them initially what somebody wants, because they'll do it in their own good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
Okay,
And the
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, because this idea of they'll do it in their own good time, right? Because the line 6 has a lot of, the line wave for it is like sympathy and apathy, and so we look at that, right, and go, "Okay, like that line 6, it really does have to do it when it feels pulled to do it, when it feels correct for it." Otherwise, the line 6 is like, "Oh, not today."
Hi, I'm a 4 6. I have made, yeah, anyhow, we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah.
Jennifer, this has been incredible. This is Jennifer from My Holistic Self and Holistic Self Counseling. What do you have coming up, Jennifer?
Well, I have Twillo Talk, today at 5. And that's 5 Eastern, so in 2 hours, just under from now,
Mhm.
and you can find that on my YouTube channel, so feel free to, like and subscribe on there, and then you'll get notified as soon as we go live, and, I think next week we have a really awesome, co-host joining us for I think it's next week. Not this week, but next week,
Okay,
the 7th.
hmm,
um,
cool.
yeah, so I have that coming up, and then the beginning of each month, Tanis and I do card readings, so that will come out for your July reading. Should be out in the beginning of the month, so tomorrow, and from there. The other thing I have coming up is I have a new book, Spheres of Consciousness, and it is going to be free on Kindle starting tomorrow. So if you go ahead and like and subscribe, I'm going to put a post out tomorrow just to say, hey guys, go ahead and grab the book. It is going to be free just for those 5 days. So it's a beautiful journey inward, understanding what it is to go through this process of growth and ascension in a whole new kind of way, instead of moving it from that, if I'm low vibing, if I'm having a rough go, then that means I'm all the way down here and somehow I've fallen from grace. But to really understand that we have all of this within us all of the time and how to hold space for that.
I like that.
So it's a nice little workbook, and hopefully, I know this is my 1-3 energy, my 1 going, I got to deep dive into this, but my 3 going, hey guys, this is my life experience here, and I want to share it because it's meant so much for me in my journey. So,
Well, thank you for being here, sharing this depth of knowledge you have. I'm excited to hear about the book. Edward just subscribed to your channel.
thank you.
Link is below. Please do subscribe. I have got some great shows coming up the rest of this week. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you are subscribed, because on Friday, Richie and I are joined by the deck creator Aqua de Jour to talk about a specific deck. That's the What You Packin' deck, and it is for 18 or older only to watch this, because it's a deck with big D energy. Sorry,
Okay.
so there you go. Thank you, Jennifer. Have a great show with Tanis
Thank
tonight in
you.
a couple hours. This is wonderful. And we will say farewell. We do have another one scheduled, so don't miss that. And take care, everybody. Bye. Why'd that stop?